Yeah, good morning to all of you. Let us start. Like last lecture, we have seen the ship showed a safety checklist. So, for a ship showed a safety checklist for the unloading, and during the unloading, the crude oil washing simultaneously it has to be taken carried out. So there are procedures for that, and planning has to be done. As we have seen, the cargo loading and the crude oil washing, planning has to be done prior to unloading, and then it has to be discussed with the uh, shore terminal, as well as it has to be agreed by the both parties, both shore terminal as well as the ship, and procedure to be followed. Always it has to be during the activities, the procedure has to be followed, which is agreed procedure and which the procedure is made by as per the ISM code, that is the SMS manual safety management system. And the information to be provided by the terminal for loading, what information the terminal provides to the ship, that is the draft, because terminal might be having some draft restriction. uh, this draft restriction means the terminal, what is the depth of water in the terminal, because the ship should have a safe bottom clearance. What is bottom clearance? It means this is the seabed, and suppose this is the jetty or the terminal. So that there will be fender in between, and there will be ship here. So this is the ship. So this is the bottom clearance. It means has to be sufficient clearance between the ship bottom and the seabed. So to maintain this clearance, it means depend on what is the depth of water. Suppose the depth of water is this much. It means if the draft increases, the bottom clearance will reduce. So ship can might touch the bottom. So then there it will be a dangerous thing. Ship will lease, have a lease. Ship can have lease, and your hose is connected here. This is the terminal. This is the terminal flange, and then this is the loading arm, and this is the ship's manifold. So this might get damaged, and once this get damaged, there will be pollution hazard as well as there will be the means the fire hazard. So that every terminal gives certain information before the ship enter into the well before ship enters into the terminal, so that ship can prepare accordingly. So loading, during the for the loading draft, what will be the draft? Then manifold connections. So where is the manifold? Because ship has length. So this is the ship So this is the manifold for an example. Both sides there will be manifold. So the manifold connection also what it should be. The dimension as well as the location. This is the length of the ship. So where is the manifold as well as the dimension of the shore manifold? Shore has got manifold here. So it has to be on the same line. So ship has to be moved accordingly. So all information to be given to the once the terminal will give the information what is their manifold connections, what will be the dimension of the flange. Then reducer. What is the reducer required? Suppose your flange and the terminal flange does not match, then what will you do? Terminal has got a flange of higher diameter than the ship's manifold flange. Then will you be able to fit the cargo hose? You won't be able to fit because it will not match. So in that case, what will happen? So this is suppose the terminal and this is the ship's flange. Now the ship's flange does not match with the terminal flange. So what we will do, suppose the terminal flange is bigger in size. So what will you do? You will be putting a reducer here. And then this two flange is same, this one and this one. So now we can fit this hose. So all the ship has got reducer, certain size of reducer they have, but the reducer required from the terminal, they will tell. Ship will check that ship has got that reducer or not. If ship does not have, then what will happen? This reducer will be arranged by the terminal well in before. So that when once the ship comes to the port, jetty, immediately they will fix up the hose. There will not be any delay. And there are standard reducer which a ship carries. And if ship does not have the correct one, they will arrange. So the reducer requirement, because once the flange size does not match, the reducer is required. Then this length also has to be such. The manifold position, it means it has to inline with the ship and shore manifold. So how much will be the distance? They all calculate so that it is in safely ship can be moved. So unless the terminal gives you all this information, the ship won't be able to exchange the information and prepare accordingly. Now, the ship also has to give certain information. What all information ship should give? The ship will give to the terminal because both are involved into the cargo operation. Sequence of cargo. So the sequence which tank, the or if it is different grade, which grade will be discharged first or the loading first, all this information has to be given. For a simple example, let me give you, like if you are taking bunker, heavy oil and diesel oil and low sulfur, then you will have a sequence of loading because you are loading 3 grade. So in that case, it will be having a sequence. Similarly, for cargo, there will be much more maybe grade. Plus, there are more tanks. Which tank it will be taken the cargo first, that sequence. We have seen the loading plan, the cow plan, that has got a sequence. So accordingly that has to be shared with the terminal. So that terminal will prepare accordingly. Number of loading line, what does it mean? Suppose it is a crude oil carrier. We have seen that there are 3 pumps and there is groups. Different means there is we can run 1 pump, you can run 3 pump at a time. And that loading line, suppose we use the 3 pump at a time, the loading line will be 3. Because that goes to the manifold, and then manifold can be connected 3 connections, and can be simultaneously 3 pump can be used. So that information who can give? It is the ship has to give to the terminal. So that what is the reason they will arrange accordingly the loading arm and the cargo hose accordingly. Whether it is 2, whether it is 3, whether it is 1, accordingly they will arrange. Then the maximum pumping rate, because what is the reason for it? Both sides, ship and shore, they have the design capacity of the pump. What will be the pumping rate? Like for an example, uh, bunkering. Bunkering also we exchange our information. What will be the maximum pumping rate? Why? Because the design of the piping system should not exceed the design pressure or the pumping rate. Then your line will get damaged. So similarly for the cargo also exactly the same. There has to be maximum pumping rate. It has to be what will be the maximum pumping rate, because shore will have very high capacity pump. So the shore will control accordingly, because shore should know that what is actually safe pumping rate for as per the design of the uh, cargo piping system. Now, these all information has to be shared by the ship to the terminal. Now, remember one thing. Suppose the ship has a pumping capacity, and because of some reason, the ship cannot take that maximum pumping rate. It can happen. The condition of the piping system, maybe it is not safe to take that. If so, it has to be informed to the terminal. Because terminal will actually, then it will be a problem, because terminal will say that the loading took longer time because of the ship. Understood? But you cannot hide. If you hide, then what will happen? The terminal will pump maximum pumping rate at, and there can be an accident. Because ship line piping system will not be able to withstand that pressure. So the correct information has to be given to the terminal. Then operational agreement, unloading, the operational agreement between the ship and shore, it has to be in writing. See, if you are having a verbal agreement, as per the law, it is also valid. But then what happens? A party can deny to that. Then it will be difficult to prove, and it will take a longer process to prove. It should be always in writing, so that nobody can deny. Immediately it can be proved that yes, it is agreed upon both the parties. So even terminal, even the ship cannot deny that we have not agreed to that. So in our industry, marine industry, all is documented in writing. You see the checklist you fill up. What do you do? It is in writing. It means you have committed to that you have checked that and filled it up. If something goes wrong, it means uh, it is it can be found very easily, and any investigation it's very easy to find out. Now, what are the subject to be covered during the loading and unloading? Loading sequence. One of the sequence you have seen, so that according to the tank sequence, it will be according to the when the main pump will stop. All this sequence is there in the loading plan. Then tank hourly rate, which means tanks also has to be identified, which all tanks as per the sequence it will be filled up. Then hourly rate. Why hourly rate is important? Because we need to know how much time it will take to fill up, as well as it means you can calculate. You take the measurement at a particular time, and after 2 hours, after 1 hour for an example, or after 30 minutes, you take another reading of the sounding. you can calculate per hour how much you are loading, because you need to find out that, because loading rate you'll have to control initially, like it's very slowly. After that, once the bell mouth of the loading pipe, it is the like dropping line, we call it dropping line, that loading line. Once the bell mouth is covered with the oil, after that you can increase slowly the loading rate. Otherwise, what will happen? You will be having the vapor pressure will be very, very high. And towards the end, you'll have to reduce. And during the topping up, you'll have to reduce the rate. Otherwise, there can be overflow. And especially, it can happen that inside, on top of the cargo, you have the gases, and there can be a gas pocket. Pressure can increase, and oil can come out if it is the fast loading has been done during the topping up. Then the oil can come out from the vent, because your vent is open. Your sounding pipe is shut, but vent is open. So it can come out from the vent. Then the stability requirement, because during the loading, these are the critical operation during the loading. Your tanks actually, the loading condition keep on changing. It is not fixed load. Loading, it means the cargo is discharging. If you are discharging the cargo, you are reducing the load at particular tank. You are loading, it means you are adding the weight in particular tanks. And throughout the loading, your stability condition, GM should be positive, then it should be upright, it should not touch the bottom, trim should be sufficient, it should not be excess trim, it should not be trim by head. Then, like the shear force and bending moment, because your loading condition is changing, that is the load on the vessel along the length and the weight is changing, because that's very, very critical condition. A chief mate, he constantly check in the loadicator. That's why you will find him many times is working on the computer, because he has to constantly monitor. He has already calculated, because he had made the plan, and which is checked by the captain, and it is agreed that yes, it is safe, but during the operation he has to continuously monitor. Then ship shore communication, it should be reliable, it should not break. Suppose something goes wrong in the terminal, if there is no communication, then ship will not come to know. If something goes wrong with the ship, terminal will not come to know, and it will be a very dangerous situation, and there will be I mean, it will very dangerous, and then it can lead to disaster. Means it can lose fire hazard, environmental hazard, loss of life, all can happen. Now, the both parties has to establish agreed in writing, always in writing, so that nobody can deny. And once he has given in writing, means he has committed to that, he has agreed to that, he has signed it. So maintain the reliable primary and standby communication system. If primary communication system fail, the secondary communication system you use to communicate, so that communicate does not fail. Communication does not fail. So this is mandatory. These are all mandatory requirements. Otherwise, ship cannot discharge or load. Now, the preloading tank inspection, because why the tank inspection is done at the load port? Because the ship has come, your tank is empty. So the before loading, the surveyor, the uh, shipper will employ a surveyor who will check the tank, so that it will ensure that the tank is fit to load. Because if the cargo is loaded and tank is not fit to load, it means some previous cargo is there or residue is there, then what will happen? The cargo will get contaminated. So the cargo owner will not take chance. He will not rely on anybody. He will not rely on his own employed surveyor, who will protect the owner, because owner might not be sitting there. So the surveyor will come on board and he will inspect the tank and he will give a fitness certificate. Yes, he will give the clearance that tanks are fit to be loaded, fit to load. And then only the cargo will start. Otherwise, cargo will never start. And sometime, because it may be carried out without entering into the tank, because your tank is having what you are having is IG, because you have cleaned the tank, after that you have inerted, then you have entered into the terminal. And once you have entered into the terminal, it means first thing, you cargo surveyor might be doing the inspection without entering into the tank. It can be done from top. So when a tank inspection can be made from the deck, how he does? He uses the allege. Just one sec. So, like how he does from the without entering into the tank, he will be using the allege. Once he takes the allege, it means if the tank is empty, there will not be any sounding. So he takes the allege or sighting port because there are hatches by which he can open the hatch and then he can check from top with the strong torchlight, which is approved type, strong torchlight. With that he can see. But there are some difficulties can arise. So where applicable, inert gas within the tank to be maintained minimum positive pressure. Why minimum positive pressure? Because when you are opening and when you are means opening something, the tank is open. Then it is a small opening, but tank is open. The gases from the tank will get released to the atmosphere, which we want to minimize. There will be some gases which will be coming out from the tank, but to minimize that, if you keep the tank pressure inside the tank pressure, inert gas pressure to minimum, then the less gases will come out because the differential pressure will be less. And the person who is inspecting the tank, that is the surveyor, and there will be ship staff also will be assisting the surveyor. So they should not inhale the cargo vapor or inert gas. Sometime it will be cargo vapor also because usually the tankers are the liner. They have the fixed, they load in one port and then go to the refinery, deliver the discharge, and then after unloading, they come back to the same terminal to load. In that case, there can be cargo vapors. If the cargo is changed, then there will be gas free and inerting. So there, because you need to clean completely. In that case, there will be inert gas before once at the load port. And then it should not inhale. Actually, the person who is doing the inspection and who are assisting him, that it should not inhale the cargo vapor or the inert gas when inspecting the tank. So minimum you keep the positive pressure so that minimum car means the gases will come out, so that it should means they should keep themselves they will wear the SCBA set, or they will keep themselves such a way so that they don't inhale that. And if the tank is gas fed, then there is no problem because it is oxygen contained is 21% and other requirement as per the mandatory requirement that 1% of LEL, then it is safe. So you don't have to worry about this. Now, the tank atmosphere frequently has to be checked. Now the problem is if there is a inert tank, inert gas, it is the boiler flue gas, and inert gas will contain the particle. Once that particle is contained, it means you cannot remove 100% particle. The tankers, that is one of the problem where we use the flue gases. Now there is a something called blue haze. What is blue haze? Blue haze means when your tank is inerted because of those particles, then there will be a reflection of light, and then the color will looks like blue. And what will happen when you put the torch? That will not reach to the bottom. That will get reflected by these particles. So then it will be difficult to do the inspection of the bottom. So even if you use the powerful torch, still or strong sunlight, which will be reflected by a mirror, like those particles will like a mirror and it will get reflected. It will not reach to the bottom of the tank, and the surveyor who is inspecting the tank who won't be able to see that. So that is one of the problem they have during the, it can arise during the uh, inspection. So in that case, what will happen? He might have to go down and he has to wear the SCBS set. Or he might ask to gas free the tank, and then he will inspect, and then he will, after that, he will give the clearance that the tank is fit to carry load. So other methods such as dipping. What is dipping? Dipping means you dip sounding tape, and you can take the uh, you trim the vessel or the uh, heal the vessel and check that if there is any liquid inside of it. If it is dry, the dip once you dip the sounding tape, then it will be dry. And the stripping line or the ejector you can open. Suppose you open the stripping line for that particular pump, then what will happen if it is dry? Pump will not take suction. So that also will prove that yes, the tank is dry. If you use the ejector drive will be there, the motive fluid, but there will not be suction. And if there is no suction, gas is coming out, you can make out from the pressure gauge, and also it will make a sound. That sound also will tell that yes, the tank is dry. So these are the indirect way can be inspected the tank, so that then the surveyor will give the clearance. Sometime necessary to remove the tank cleaning opening, because tank cleaning opening, we know that tank cleaning machine where you put there is a flange, that flange you can remove, and then you can check the tank through that. And suppose the side port, that there are side port means small hatches are there, you can open those hatches and can see inside the tank. If difficult to inspect, you need to open the tank cleaning cover to see the tank from top, from the upper deck. And this, suppose the tank is not visible from the allege or the side ports, and it has to be done by the tank in gas free condition. So this, it means in the, if a surveyor cannot inspect, it has to be done gas free. and then inspection has to be covered with the carried out. And that when the inspection is completed without any delay, any opening was removed, means any cover was removed for the inspection, immediately it has to be secured. So that the hydrocarbon vapors, IG, gases should not come out from the tank. So that is the most important thing. It means you don't wait for immediately once the inspection is finished, you secure the cover immediately. Suppose if the cargo to be loaded has a critical specification, then what will happen? Like inspector suppose has to enter critical specification means there should not be any contamination. Like inspector is doing this inspection from top of the tank, so definitely it is not actually 100%. You cannot say it is 100%. But if that is critical specification of the cargo has to be clean. Cargo tank has to be clean so that there is no contamination, then cargo cannot be used. The problem is the cargo is bought by the buyer who has to have a certain, that cargo has a certain specification for, as per his requirement. He is going to use that cargo. And if that specification changes because of the contamination, then he won't be able to use this cargo. After buying, what he will do? For him, it has got no value. So the inspector has to enter into the tank. In that case, so the enclosed space entry precaution has to be followed. Because the cargo tank, which is having hydrocarbon gases, IG, because ship has entered into that port or with all the cargo tanks inert condition. So the enclosed space precautions has to be taken. And the surveyor, he knows that he is entering into the tank, suppose gas free is not possible. So he will enter. It means he has to have the SCBA with positive uh, mask should have the positive air so that no gases can enter into his face mask. All this he has to wear the proper PPA, proper chemical resistance suit and all, so that gloves and all hard hats, so that uh, his health is not jeopardized. So this, if gas free for entry, it has to be. If not possible, then he has to take the precautions so that he can enter like SCBS said, as I told you. If it is gas free, okay, he can go inside. There is no problem. But if not gas free, it can happen. Sometimes that gas free is not possible. So in that case, he will enter with that SCBS and all. And the when gas freeing is done, inert system has to be isolated completely. Whenever he is entering into the tank, gas freeing is done, inert system is isolated. And the means inspection must be isolated from the inert gas system. That is tank, which tank he is inspecting. He will be inspecting one by one, all the tanks. So each tank will have to do the gas free. He will enter during. He will have to isolate, do the gas free. He will enter, inspect, come out, and then that inerting has to be done for that tank, and then he will enter into another. So always keep on isolating the tank which he is going to enter. Now different grade of oil, how it has to be handled. Name and description clearly understood by both parties. The problem is the oil, there are many trade names. If the trade name is used, trade name might not be understood by both parties. So it has to, description should be such. There is a list of a name which is used as per the IBC code. So same name has to be used, because once that same name is used, so that everybody equally understood that what it is, so the trade name cannot be used. So the name and the description and MSDS has to be provided, which gives everything, the number and the type of oil, like crude oil sweet, crude oil shower, and what will be the percentage uh, of the sulfur content. That also has to be written. Then ship shore safety checklist we have seen already, that has to be completed jointly by the ship and short staff, and it has to be both party has to sign, so that both party agreed on that. And any party, he has something to say, he can put a remark. So he put a remark if it is unsafe, and he will not sign also. Suppose if it is unsafe, he will not sign, he will not agree. And describe the checklist. Checklist has to be followed and explain reason and relevance of the checks item. It means the checklist has to be followed, it checks has to be carried out actually, and then any relevance, all the relevance checks item has to be carried out. Then only checklist should be filled up. Development and application of cargo related operation plan. We have seen the plan, procedures and checklist, including the management and the supervision of personnel has to be described. So all, and it has to be updated during the operation. The scenario might change. So that has to be updated to the management and the supervision of the personnel. Everybody involved has to be known. So next is the knowledge of medical first aid procedure on board oil tanker. So medical treatment is required when it is required for the exposure to the hydrocarbon gases, which we know we can have eye contact, we can have skin contact, orally also it can enter into the body, and other not only hydrocarbon gases. So other harmful gases also in the hazardous area. So we need to suppose somebody get become casualty, then we'll have to remove the casualty from a area free of hydrocarbon, because we'll have to remove that person to an area where there is no hydrocarbon gases, so that he can get the oxygen, he can recover, and which has to be done. It means first it has to be he has to be rescued, and then we need to give them the artificial respiration. So the artificial respiration, all of you have done the courses, the basic, those four courses which has to be done for any seafarers going to the ship. They are medical first aid. You all have done, so you know that the artificial respiration, how it is given, it has to be given. That is the love. Uh, that is the you give the respiration to the casualty, and uh, you can press the chest so that the pump it starts pumping, or finally in extreme cases you'll have to do the mouth to mouth, you'll have to give, because when you inhale the oxygen, when we all inhale the oxygen, when it comes out, then it contains sufficient oxygen to support. We don't consume all the oxygen. So that we give to the mouth to mouth respiration. So the artificial respiration has to be given, and the cardiac massage. That is the so that the your your heart start pumping, and the administration of oxygen. It means you are giving the support that body needs. That casualty, whoever is the casualty, he needs oxygen. So the administration of oxygen has to be there, like how to give that oxygen. So, and he has to be in open, means the he has to be in a place where you have the oxygen. If you don't uh, put him in a place after rescue to a place where there is no oxygen or lack of oxygen, he only will to recover. So because he might be having the asphyxia. What is asphyxia? Asphyxia, one of the dangerous thing a person can have. What is that? It is the deficiency of oxygen. And the problem with the asphyxia, that when the oxygen deficient atmosphere a person is entering, our brain needs oxygen, and the brain will stop working. Our nervous system will stop working. You won't be able to even smell. So if and it happens without any alarm given to you, it means there will not be any symptom. Suddenly it will happen. The brain will stop working. And also, the person can have the inhalation of the toxic fumes. Toxic fumes can enter; those are poisonous. That affects the organs. So these two are the most common thing happens when a person is become a casualty in a enclosed space in that uh, on board the ship. And tanker toxic fumes, it can inhale because it is in dangerous space. You have the toxic because cargo itself it's releasing the toxic things. So suppose the toxic fumes inhalation is severe, then and the it can be why it can happen. It can happen due to the human error. Human error is the 80% of the accident is human error. It has been found by investigation in our maritime industry, merchant maritime industry. So the human error or the equipment failure. Suppose the equipment you are inspecting something and the equipment has failed. It has started leaking the gases. So then the person who is close to that, he will inhale the toxic fumes. Suppose somebody is in the pump room and the pump seal give up, then what will happen? Same thing will happen. So, and the human, that's why the human error has to be eliminated. Till date, most of the accident happens, as I told you, 80% is because of the human error. Now, how will you eliminate? Awareness? People should know what to do, what not. There should not be fatigue. If there is a fatigue, people fatigue one of the symptoms that the person will take high risk. He will not think about what is the procedure, and then there will be a casualty. So, and the knowledge. If a person does not have knowledge how to use the equipment or how to use the system, then there will be an error and there will be an accident. So the knowledge and calmness, never get panic or hyper. If a person become hyper, he will start making mistakes and there will be accidents. So you need to keep yourself cool, think and do that. Do the activities. So asphyxia is something immediate death can happen from the asphyxia. Never ever enter into a tank which does not comply with the requirement. 21% of oxygen and 1% of LEL hydrocarbon gases, toxic gases as per the LD. That is TA means the time weighted average threshold limit. Never enter because this it does not take time to person even lost his life because it's immediate and it does not give you symptom also. And the problem is the when you feel that it's too late, you will be trying to come out. And our ship structure is not like a lift or something, it's very smooth. You need to climb up so many ladder, vertical ladder, rung ladder, and your exhaustion will be high. And due to that exhaustion, because your oxygen uh, has to go to the brain, now the oxygen is not going to the brain. What will happen? It will collapse. Person will collapse. So, most of the cases, it has been found that a person has collapsed near the ladder and all. He was trying to survive, but it was too late. So, it can be mild to severe respiratory stress and acute upper airway inflammation can be because we have the air passage, it can happen. And delayed pulmonary idiom and respiratory muscle dysfunction. It means respiratory muscles has to be flexible. It becomes stiff. Once it becomes stiff, then it will not function. The pumping rate will reduce. And combination of illness. It can be individual, it can happen, as well as combination also. Two, three things together can happen. So first, that's the reason the patient has to be removed and taken to fresh air and give artificial respiration immediately. And check if the patient is breathing, then the immediate action. So if like not breathing, then like give you determine that the person is not breathing or no one trained in CPR is present. It means the CPR has to be given and lie the victim on his or her back. So the chest should be on top, back should be on the floor. Loosen the cloth around the victim neck because why? The oxygen, it's actually nervous system goes through the neck. So neck should not be tightened, it should be free. So that uh, easily the oxygen can enter into the body. Check that nothing is blocking the mouth or the throat. That's why you put the head such a way so that the tongue should not restrict the air passage because he is unconscious. Tilt the person head back slightly and lift under the chin to open the airway. Because what happens when you slightly on the left you tilt the person's head, then that his tongue will be at one side. So that you have the air passage open. Now the oxygen can enter easily. Hold the person's mouth open with your thumb and pinch the person's nose, because what happens if you don't pinch, then through the mouth you are giving the air and it will come out from the nose, and then his or her mouth means cover his mouth, try to make a leak proof seal and use a disposable pocket mouth to mouth resuscitation device if available, so that through the nose it will not come out, so it goes inside, and then the oxygen goes inside the body and the brain. So blow into the person's mouth once every 5 seconds. There is a procedure. Every 5 seconds, once you will be blowing, and every 3 seconds for a child. And repeat until you see the person chest is rising. It means the heart has started working and it rising and falling. That's the way we can see that it's breathing or not. You can check the pulse also. The like the pulses in the hand, so you know that the heart is working because heart is pumping. That pulsation we can check. But from the chest, we can see rise or fall. It means the person has started breathing and person is still alive. See and feel the breathing from his or her mouth, because you can keep the hand near to the mouth and you can see the gas is coming out or not. Now the first aid procedure which is available on board the ship, this IMDG code, it means it will be their first aid guide. MFG is always on board. It is a IMO publication. There are certain IMO publication has to be on board. It is a mandatory requirement, and this is one of them. And it is there in the bridge. All these publications are there in the bridge, and this publication has to be latest edition. In where will you get this, the latest edition? If you see the IMO publication list, it will be written which edition, that is the latest edition it will be given. And if any edition is changed, then the book has to be, this publication book has to be changed. It has to be, new books has to be supplied to the vessel by the ship owner, the manager, and it has to be replaced, because these are mandatory requirement. Even the PSC will check that. So, and also the first aid procedure, where you will get the MSDS. We have seen in MSDS, because different cargo will have the different MSDS requirement, means the different medical facility requirement, what has to be done. So MSDS one thing will give clearly what has to be done, what has happened, accordingly what treatment has to be done for the first aid. And the first aid guide, medical first aid guide is there on board the ship. It can be referred, it has to be referred. Explain the action taken in a, it means a medical emergency and how they conform to current recognized first aid practice and international guideline. International guideline we have seen, and plus over telephone there are globally there are doctors available, medical advice available. It is given by the doctors. So the ship will contact the medical advisor, advice facility. Those are those contact list is there on board the ship. So accordingly, on medical over telephone, the medical advice will be given to the ship. But remember one thing: cargo ship does not carry the doctor. We all have done course, but we are not doctors, isn't it? What I want to say, there should not be any injury on board or casualty on board. Because if you have a casualty, it's a very difficult situation. Because none of us are doctors. Though we have done certain courses, like we have done medical first aid or the first aid at sea, all and the deck side actually they do little details than the engineers. So that's why the medical officer usually is the second mate, is the medical officer, but overall in charge is captain. Captain, they have done actually the nautical side. They have done higher training of medical. So this advice is given to the ship on telephone, and accordingly, ship gives the information of the patient, and accordingly, from the shore it is given. But it is uh, it is a support we do get, uh, but it is a very difficult situation if there is a casualty on board the ship, because that's why first thing nobody should get injured. You should work such a way, safe manner, so that nobody will get injured. This is not required. Because even you get the remote advice, are you equipped of everything? No, we don't. We have the medical chest. We have a list of medicine to be carried as per the flag state. We can, but uh, we have limitation. If a casualty is like it's extreme cases or very badly injured, it's very difficult, and nobody should be injured on board the ship. That is the best way. Everybody should keep in everybody's mind. So that is the reason the safe culture of work is very, very important. Now, the list of contained in medical first aid guide: rescue, how to rescue a person. And rescue a person on ship is not so easy. If he is in the tank, DV tank, you can imagine. You'll have to take out all the cargo tank. You'll have to remove him. There are so many obstructions. So, and during the rescue, he should not get injured. We'll have to keep that thing in mind also. So, how to rescue? It is given in the table one. Table two is cardiac pulmonary resuscitation. That is that artificial what we give, and then oxygen administration and control of ventilation. It means the administration of oxygen means and control of the ventilation, so the oxygen contained maintained. Then chemical induced disturbance of consciousness, because chemical is very, very dangerous, because it is reactive and it can be toxic. It can create fire. So chemical induced disturbances of the consciousness, that guideline is there for the in the table 4. Table 5 is seizure or the feed for the chemical induced. So there can be fit means people become unconscious, and he behaves like his body moves in such a way like it's like abnormal way body moves, body movement become means the hand will, he will try to throw the hand because he is not in conscious, and it happens because of the chemical. Then table 6 is the toxic mental confusion. What is that? The toxic, when a person is inhaling the toxic vapors and all, he will have dizziness, and he will have behavior will be different. He will not be behaving normal. Eye exposure to the chemical, eye can get damaged, and also we have seen one of the photo after the eye contact what can happen, the vision can reduce. Skin exposure to the chemical, because through the eye chemical can enter into the body, as well as skin also chemical can enter, and it can damage our organ, skin, everything. Inhalation of the chemical, table 9, if inhalation of the chemical you inhale, then what has to be done? So all the measures to be taken is given in this book. Then the ingestions of the chemical, like it goes to the stomach, lungs, then it's a very big problem. So what has to be done? It is given. And the shock, what is shock actually? Just one second. The shock, what is shock? A person can be attacked by the shock. Once a person is shocked, then what will happen? Just one second. So the shock means people stop thinking, stop doing anything. When a person is on shock, if you see, if a person is on shock, he will not do anything because he cannot do anything. His body movement and the mind stops working. So, if a person is shocked, then what is to be done to that person to recover from that? Suppose you will see, if you are going to a place and suddenly you are afraid and will stop. So your movement of the body will stop and mind also will stop. Then you don't know what to do. So then acute kidney failure. So if the acute kidney failure happens, then what is to be done is table 12, it says. Then the pain relief, 13 is pain relief. If there is a pain, then what is to be done? Chemical induced bleeding. Suppose due to the chemical your skin got damaged and then bleeding start. What is to be done? Then jaundice, because of the chemical, a person can be affected by the jaundice. It is a disease. Hydrofluoric acid and hydrogen fluoride. So what has to be done in that case? And then insecticides, if you have this kind of, then what has to be done? That also is given in 70. So all this like methanol, ethanol, glycol. So 19 table, it says that how to use this, and what means the, if affected by this, then what will happen? If affected by the radioactive material, then what will happen? What is to be done actually? Uh, what kind of medical treatment has to be given? So appendix is gives the emergency response plan, integrated response, rescue, arrived at the scene, establish of the exclusion of the hot zone, then assessment, documentation, initial treatment of the casualty, what is to be given. So what has to be considered for the transport of the casualty to medical area of the ship, how to transport, medical management of the casualty, so assessment of the heart function, because we need to know that yes, the person of the casualty is still alive. Heart is beating, unconscious, not beating, but heart is beating, then breathing, and heart have stopped. So all this has to be assessed, because when you are asking for the doctor's advice, short doctor's advice, medical advice, all this information has to be given to him. Accordingly, he will tell that what is to be done. What kind of ventilation has to be given? Suffocation. There should not be any suffocation. Oxygen resuscitation kits. How to use insertion of the guided airway because has to be free to air to enter. Then oxygen for casualty who is not breathing, oxygen for casualty who has difficulty in breathing, they will be treated differently. And then chemical induced disturbance of the consciousness, the unconscious position and unconscious casualty. Then toxic. These are the appendixes, which is in details is given: eye contact, skin, inhalation of chemical, suffocation. Suffocation means the asphyxia. It means less oxygen has gone into the body, and because of that, a person has failed, and the brain also will stop working. That is another problem for asphyxia. The chemical hazard from welding. Welding also it produces the gases, toxic means the harmful gases. So it can be because of the welding or exposure of the chemical. Suppose the person has gone entered into the tank and he was cleaning and there was fumes, and then also it can happen. And shock 11, appendix 11 gives shocks, fainting. Fainting means the unconsciousness. Then your heart failure, then acute kidney. These are in details, but what we have seen in the content, what all things is there, same in details. The fluid replacement, oral fluid. Then list of medicine and equipment has to be carried on ship. It's written because that is the according to that the medical chest list has been made and it has been supplied, and the medical chest certificate has to be ship has to have the medical valid medical chest certificate. UN number means it is gives you UN numbers gives you the correct. We know we can refer to that number and see what it is, because if it is a name trade name we won't be able to understand. So the oil tanker next is oil tanker preparedness for emergency. So there has to be a ship's emergency response plan. All tankers, oil tankers must have this. So every oil tanker greater than 150 tons. For oil tanker, since it is dangerous, you'll see for the cargo vessel it will be more than above 400 tons. Whereas for the the tankers it will be 150 tons. Must have the oil pollution emergency plan. So that is SOPEP. And all should be ship's emergency plan has to be there. So what is that actually? It is the planning and the preparation for dealing successfully with an emergency. If emergency will arise, suppose what is kind of emergency you can have? Oil spillage. Because you are carrying oil, there are operation of oil, loading, unloading. So there can be a spillage. And if there is a spillage and there has to be a preparation and the planning, that is contingency plan, so by which we can deal with that successfully. It means we can restrict if there is a spillage. What do we do? The first thing? First thing, I restrict and isolate. Restrict means the oil should not go overboard, and isolate so that you are minimizing the leakage and stopping the leakage. So all this procedure is given in the contingency plan. Then fire. If oil tanker can have an emergency of fire, if there is a fire, how to deal with that fire? It means fire also has to be restricted. It should not spread. And then you need to uh, fight the fire. And there can be explosion. If there is any explosion, what is to be done? Personnel affected by petroleum. It means it is a human casualty. Then what will happen? What has to be done in that case? So that also is given in the uh, contingency plan, which is made by the company and given to the ship. Another calamities, if some, for an example, the cyclone, or it can be like tsunami, all what kind of action to be taken, that has to be it is there in the, that is the planning and the preparation. So, and it should be readily available on board the ship. It is there in SMS, that is the safety management system manual, so you can readily available it is, you can refer readily. And the what all information you will get, the type of cargo and its description, what type of cargo you are carrying on ship, and description of the cargo, and the disposition of the cargo, how you dispose it on, location of other hazardous substances. So all the hazardous substances where it is located, it has to be given, the information has to be given. General arrangement plan of the ship. What it gives actually, general arrangement plan, where the tanks are located, how it is arranged, and then where are the ballast tanks, how it is arranged, what is the pump room, where is the engine room. All this information is given in the general arrangement plan. So that once we know the general arrangement plan, for an example, suppose we know that a particular tank is having problem. So in general arrangement plan, we can see where is the location of the tank, what it is surrounded by. Suppose that tank, there is a fire in the tank, that tank, and surrounded by tanks are having the dangerous cargoes, it means that will also heat will transfer to that tank and will have the problem. Fire will spread. Suppose there is a leakage. What the tank it is leakage, where it is, and what kind of cargo you are carrying in that tank, we know that that cargo is going out to the sea. So we know what action to be taken for cleanup operation or to handle that situation. So that's the reason general arrangement plan gives you a general idea of the shape. So by seeing that, it is very simple. It's not complicated diagram. All the location is there. So suppose we know that one tank which is affected, which is how far from the accommodation. If it is close to the accommodation, then there is another problem. Because the accommodation where we are living, people are living, ship stuff is living, can be affected. If it is away from that, it means it is less probability or the risk for the accommodation. Stability information has to be there. It means if a tank is suppose ruptured and that tank now the load has changed and also that tank, any tank is ruptured on the side shell, that tank will not give you the stability. It means the bouncy force will not be generated from that tank. So your draft will increase. So the stability information, and if one side tank is ruptured and the load has changed, there will be a list. Now no more upright position of the ship. That is also another stability problem. Then shear force, bending moment, all will change. Location of the firefighting equipment, because the location of the firefighting equipment is in this plan has to be there so that people can see this plan and then locate the firefighting equipment immediately. It will be in a particular locker so that there will not be any time delay and all the equipment is marked as well so that you know where it is kept as well as it is marked what it is, so you can pick up and fight the fire. And suppose fixed fire, where is the location of the firefighting equipment? So the ESD on deck, you can have this ESD, you can see where you can press one button and then this is the ESD. All the cargo operation will stop. Suppose you are discharging, pump will stop, manifold valve will shut. If you are loading, manifold valve will shut. So, but ESD when it is operated, it has to be informed to the terminal. Otherwise, you stopped it and terminal is loading, terminal has to also stop because the pump is running, your pipeline, their pipeline can get ruptured. And before all the cargo operation, any cargo operation, this has to be also tried out. It is there in the checklist. So the ship's emergency response plan. So every emergency plan, that is the most important and critical element. It is has to be organized and resources necessary to support it. It means that if that events happen, then how you deal with all this information has to be given, and also will not only affect effective if careful consideration has been given to those elements and in preparation, so that it will fully meet the requirement of individual oil tanker as if necessary. Let us see what are those. Analyze the probable emergency scenarios. It's like a risk assessment. You do it on board, but it is in wider sense. Like if there is a fire, what are the risks? If there is a major fire on ship, then what are the risks? If there is a collision, there is a grounding, what are the risks? So all it has to be analyzed in probability and the severity. Both is been done. The normal risk assessment, what you do on board the ship, probability and the severity, and identify the potential problem, that is the severity, and the probability of the emergency scenario, and need to have agreed on the best practical approach to response to the scenarios. How will you approach to that scenario? Suppose there is a leakage on the pipeline, and there can be a chance of pollution damage, and there can be a chance of fire also, because the fume will come out. When there is a leakage, then it will get atomized, and then it can catch fire also. So in that case, what will be the best practical approach? It means immediately you'll have to isolate. You'll have to stop the cargo operation, isolate that portion, and then you'll have to contain that oil leakage has to be transferred continuously to the containment so that it does not go overboard. Then you need to put the sufficient people so that there is manpower, and if any uh, particular PPE has to be used for that because of the fumes, you need to wear that. So all this, what will be the approach depending on the scenario? In this scenario, suppose there is a gas fire, how will you deal with that? Suppose there is a gas fire, gas will start leaking, and there is a fire on that. Gas fire, as long as there is gas, there will be fire. You cannot stop. So what will you do with the spray foam? You'll have to take the fire hose, that is the water in spray foam, and you'll have to go close to the isolating wall. You isolate that. The moment the gas will stop leaking, then it will get extinguished by itself because there is no fuel. So, like this kind of a fire, you'll have to deal with in different way. If there is a oil leakage and there is a fire, it's different. But you can use the fire extinguishing media, but for gas fire, you cannot. If that kind of a situation open air, there is a leakage and there is a fire. So, the best practical approach, that is the reason it is the practical approach, means it will vary from situation to situation. Agree on an organization with the necessary sources to execute the plan efficiently. So it has to be organized way, and resources should be there to execute the plan efficiently. If it is not, plan is there, if it is not efficiently executed, then it's of no use. So it has to be executed properly. The plan should be reviewed because you might be having, because it is based on probability, analyze the probability and if the emergency scenario and identify the potential problem. But there can be some scenario miss out, some potential hazard may be missed out. So it has to be reviewed and updated on regular basis to ensure that it reflects any changes within the current best practice. It happens many times that there is a gap. If there is a gap it's found, it has to be filled up. so that it become foolproof. Then any key lessons from the emergency exercise or the previous emergencies, because if the emergencies come or you are doing some exercise on the emergency during the drill also, you can find out some deficiency, it has to be incorporated, then it has to be reinforced so that it become foolproof. During the emergencies, it's sometimes found that yes, it has been followed the procedure, but still there was a gap, so that has to be filled up. How will you fill up? It means you'll have to review, you'll have to update root cause analysis. All this thing has to be done and review the and then update in the procedure. And towing towing hoses must be rigged when the ship is alongside. When the ship is, what is this towing? Towing means suppose the vessel has to be moved from the jetty. There is some emergency. It can be on the jetty, it can be on the ship. Suppose ship there is a fire. What will happen if the ship does not move away from the jetty? Jetty will have explosion. So how will you move then? Your then there is a towing wire. It has been during once the ship is on alongside, this towing wire is made kept ready. So with that, the ship can be towed away from the jetty. So it is a mandatory requirement that towing wire has to be there, so that and all the towing equipment has to be there, so that and means OCIMF, that is the oil cargo, means the oil uh, industry has got the ship owner has got OCIMF, that is a organization, and clearly that emergency towing of the pennants system are required, as they have not provided any benefit in the past, that they should not be considered essential equipment of the vessel safety if it is not been used for the past. But it has to be ready, requirement of the towing hoses, fire wire has to be there ready during the when it is alongside. And it is important, therefore, to let the trainees to know and verify requirement with the terminal or the port authorities. So it has to be required so that the person knows how to use that. And on the forward side, you'll see there are towing wire, means that the towing wire has to be connected to the ship, which will be towed by the tug, and that is a particular lugs are provided where you will be connecting that, and that area of the ship is stronger, made stronger, so that towing can be made. Suppose the terminal of the port authority, it required emergency towing of firewire positioned on both side, both of the offshore bow and the quarter of the ship, then it is the terminal requirement, it has to be kept accordingly. So the emergency towing of hoses should be positioned side of the ship and the hose string, because terminal will tell, because they know what facility they have to remove the vessel in case of emergency. So there are various methods on the towing wire, rigging emergency towing wire, and it is in use as per the design. What is been kept, it will be kept accordingly. Some terminal may require a particular method to use, so the ship will be advised by the terminal gives certain information to the ship. Terminal will tell, and ship also has to confirm. Then ship has to use the towing wire accordingly and kept ready accordingly. So let us take a tea break at 10 o'clock now, and 10:20 will start again. So you all go for the coffee break now.